For centuries, the whole idea of the end times has been packed with these terrifying images, right? We're talking destruction, monsters, total catastrophe. But what if the greatest prophecy in the Quran isn't about the end of the world at all? What if it's about something completely different? Let's get into it.
Just think about that for a second. What if the very signs we've all been taught to be afraid of were actually pointing to a future of incredible human awareness, a huge spiritual awakening? This one question, well, it's at the heart of a totally revolutionary way of understanding Quranic prophecy. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is just accept that maybe, just maybe, our popular ideas about the apocalypse are built on a huge misunderstanding.
So according to Dr. Hawani's research, that terrifying, almost Hollywood-style end-of-the-world story, that's a product of human interpretation, and a lot of the time, it's driven by fear. He shows that the Quran itself tells a totally different story, one that was pretty much lost for a long, long time. So how did this original understanding get lost? Well, here's the craziest part. This long period of, let's call it misguidance, it wasn't some historical accident. It was actually prophesied to happen. I mean, you can find reports, trusted ones, in Islamic tradition, where the Prophet himself tells his closest friends, his companions, that the community coming after him was going to stray, that they'd end up making the same mistakes as the communities before them. This wasn't just a maybe. It was presented like, hey, this is going to happen. And Dr. Hawani lays this all out on a really fascinating timeline. First, you've got Phase 1, the pure, clear revelation. Then, bam, Phase 2 hits. A 1,400-year stretch of misinterpretation, exactly like the Prophet said would happen. But then comes Phase 3, the Great Reawakening. And that's the era we're in right now, where the scripture itself is prophesied to finally open up.
So, how in the world does this reawakening actually happen? Well, Dr. Hawani shows that the key isn't some new discovery out there in the world. Nope, it's found inside the linguistic code of the Quran itself.
Okay, check out this brilliant example from Surah Az-Zalzala. The traditional reading is all about a physical earthquake, the planet shaking itself apart. But Dr. Hawani shows that the Arabic word for earth, ard, is used again and again in the Quran to mean the scripture. With that one insight, the verse just transforms. It's no longer about the planet being destroyed, it's about the scripture itself cracking open and bringing out its heavy loads, its deepest, most profound hidden meanings.
And this is absolutely crucial. The Quran isn't just some static, old rulebook. It's a dynamic, living message that actually has the instructions for its own future decoding built right in. It predicted a time when we, as humanity, would finally be ready to get it on a much, much deeper level.
In this new way of reading the text, it has its biggest, most mind-blowing impact on one of the most feared symbols in all of prophecy, the beast.
Daabbatul Ardh. Yeah. For so many people, just hearing that phrase brings up these images of some terrifying monster crawling out of the ground to signal the end of everything.
The beast of the earth. That's the translation we always hear. It's powerful, it's scary, and it's fueled nightmares for generations. But is that what the Quran is actually talking about? And this right here is where the power of the Quran's own internal language just shines. Dr. Hawani shows that the root word Daabba, it doesn't just mean beast. It describes something that moves slowly, carefully, deliberately. Kind of like someone crawling over a text, studying it with incredible focus. Not a monster, a toiler. And Ardh, like we just saw, refers to the scripture. So Daabbatul Ardh becomes the toilers on the scripture.
And you can see this backed up elsewhere in the Quran. There's a verse that's often translated as, "The worst of beasts are those who don't hear, don't speak, and don't use reason." Now, that makes zero sense if you're talking about animals, but it makes perfect sense when you understand Daabba as toilers. The worst kind of toilers are the ones who study the scripture but refuse to listen or use the right methodology. It just clicks. This all leads to an absolutely stunning conclusion. Dr. Hawani puts it this way. The Quran is telling us that the toilers, the diligent seekers of truth, are the very beast it prophesied. It is not a monster, it is us. The great sign of the end times isn't some creature, it's a new kind of human being, one who works diligently on the divine text to bring its true, hidden guidance out into the light. So when you put all of these pieces together, the entire picture of the end times, it just transforms. It goes from being this narrative of doom and gloom to something else entirely. So let's just recap the big takeaways here.
We've seen that the Quran actually predicted this long, 1400-year period of misunderstanding. And at the same time, it held the keys to its own unlocking. This means that these terrifying symbols, like the beast, they're not monsters. They're actually these profound metaphors for human beings seeking truth. So really, this whole prophecy isn't about an end, is it? It's about a radical new beginning.
And just like that, the darkest prophecies become the brightest promises. The end of a long age of darkness isn't the end of the world. It's the dawn of a new era of understanding, of clarity, and a direct connection to the divine message.
So the really good news is, this is not the end of time. It is the beginning of a brand new era of human awareness, and it's being led by the proper understanding of the Quran. This just flips the whole paradigm. We're not supposed to be passively waiting for doom. We're meant to be actively taking part in an awakening. And so the only question left to ask is, are you ready to be part of it?